Hey there, welcome to episode 84 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo, recording this at 10:36 a.m. on Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. Today's topic entitled Reviewing Things. Tell me what you think about that. If you are new to the FFS Talk audio program, I will tell you right now it is an audio essay intended to be a discussion, so someone else might join in someday, a discussion about what works, what does not, and what we might do about it. A generally optimistic, sort of a debate or discussion format is the plan. So until this episode, including this episode, a lot of seeds planted for potential topics of discussion. I'll be honest, I need to do a better job of getting this out there, out into the world so that more people might find a topic worth to them discussing, expressing their opinion, and so on. If you are not familiar with what FFS means, you need to hang out with more Irish people. So yeah, mostly these are audio essays, but they are all of them topics worthy of additional discussion. Hopefully that will come in the future. Episode 84 on this July 3rd. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, which itself contains a summary, which I'll read to you, and the links for today's episode, including the usual 4 shameless self-promotion links and another 5, links for this episode. So let's get to it so we can get on with our day. The summary of today's episode: reviews are everywhere, whether stars or hearts or likes, with categories or rankings, and of course the long-form anecdote where we get to tell our stories, relevant or not. Have we lost the plot? I'm gonna give you a little hint. Probably. In many cases, yes. The links for today's episode, the first 2 point you to buymeacoffee.com. You can buy Dan a coffee or simply view his profile. Hey, that's me. Buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo. You're actually not obligated to spend any money on any of these sites. You can if you want to. You'd be supporting my various projects and endeavors. And you can, there's some affiliate links on my profile page there for my favorite coffee beans. You can pay into the tip jar of sorts, or you can avoid all of those things. Not a problem. Buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo. Links to my various audio programs, various projects, initiatives, efforts, and biographical information, and a pointer to buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo/posts, where on Mondays you will find the Buy Me an Update audio program exclusively so far on buymeacoffee.com. It is 5 minutes or less, a quick recap on the previous week's audio programming, and then any news and announcements upcoming. The next pair will take you to Ko-fi.com, Ko-fi.com. The hyphen is the key next to the 0 on most keyboards. Ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo. I don't really use that part of the site as much, but if you visit Ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo/posts, you will find the Coffee Solo audio program. There's no schedule. There's no time limit. There's no topic constraint. It just publishes whenever, about whatever. So far, it's been just me. I think it'll stay that way, but I like to think of it as a precursor to the Hugo Floss program, which will be coming soon for a while longer. But still, the idea is to talk about whatever and not merely what works, what does not, and what we might do about it, for example. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not always the best way to tackle a discussion. The episode links, starting with NPS, the Network Promoter Score. If you're not familiar with that, you can read the Wikipedia. These are all Wikipedia links, by the way. The best place to start your quest for knowledge, rarely the right place to end it. That's not their tagline, that's mine. Net Promoter Score is basically how likely are you to recommend this to a friend or a colleague or a family member, etc. On a scale of 1 to 10, 0 to 10, usually 1 to 10. Usually it's like 8, 9, or 10 is good. Depending, I think you can vary this. It probably depends on the population, your target demographic, and so on. But I think it's 8. You can probably read about it on the Wikipedia page. But I think the cases I have seen for the areas in which I have been considering these things, it's usually 8 to 10 is good, and then 1 to 7 is bad, but it could be 7 to 10 and 1 to 6. Those things matter in aggregate, so it's worth actually examining. So you can start with the norm and then adapt it to how your population of consumers and demographic can actually works. And this is important actually in reviews. Hey, that's why it's here. Which reviews are essentially a form of NPS, my argument. Bandwagon and testimonial and confirmation bias. Testimonial is probably most relevant to reviews. A testimonial is telling your story. So hopefully reviews are based on your own experiences with a product or service. Hopefully you actually went to the restaurant or watched the movie or drove the car or read the book or whatever the case may be. The bandwagon is whether you want to be a part of the crowd. Join the bandwagon or avoid it. Bandwagon is often used in advertising to say, hey, do you want to be in the in crowd? Use our product, buy our product, use our services, et cetera, et cetera. The bandwagon can have an impact on how we consume, actually how we write and consume reviews. We'll get to that towards the end of the episode. The testimonial, though, is essentially the review itself. And confirmation bias is when we go hunting for approval, for example. Do I want to buy this product? Well, let me look at, oh, yeah, it's got a lot of positive reviews. That's what I was hoping for. This can pop up in a few different ways as well. We'll get to that at the end of the episode. Review bombing incidents. This is just interesting. Sometimes people write reviews with an agenda, and sometimes they get a million of their friends do the same thing. No, it's not a million, but it can be enough to have an impact on a star rating average, or can become a trending topic. So there are any number of ways where a concerted effort with an agenda can undo the actual utility of reviews. So, hey, let's everybody give this place a 1-star review, even if you just get to give a 1 star. You know, if enough people do that, you'll bring the average down, especially if it's a new place that's launched. And there's motivations behind this that are ridiculous. We'll kind of touch on that as well. So those are the links. Let's get started so we get finished. I will suggest that everything is a review of sorts. First of all, likes, which are nearly ubiquitous at this point, are essentially a network promotion. So you can come up with a network promoter score. Since anyone who follows you on a particular platform is going to see the things that you, capital L, like, and vice versa. This is basically how social media platforms work. You're going to see the things that are most liked. You're going to see other items in your so-called timeline or your feed that are liked by your friends or your followers or whatever the case may be. So there's any way of doing this. They're promoting a thing to your network and vice versa. This is a simplified form of how likely are you to recommend this to a friend or a colleague. Typically on a scale from 1 to 10, for example. We talked about this briefly. Here we have an implied NPS score of, say, 7 to 10 for a like and 1 to 6 for nothing. And if there is a dislike option, which is not really popular, YouTube rather famously stopped reporting the number of dislikes on videos. The scores can be spread across the 3. So now a dislike might be 1 to 5, and nothing might be 6 to 8. Now, how about 1 to 4, 5 to 7, and 8 to 10 for a like, something like that. Like you can, and again, you can adjust these numbers based on your actual demographic to get some reflection on reality, right? So you can analyze your marketplace, your consumption, your sales, whatever it is, and you can try to correlate back and tune your model for that. Stars and hearts and whatever else can also be used to indicate a score of some sort, weighting visibility in a social network setting, or accumulating into bins so that any given thing might have some number of 5-star ratings, some number of 1-star ratings, and so on. In some cases, the star might be treated as a like, such as on the GitHub platform. You may not know what GitHub is or use it, but just trust me. You can star a project, and they offer you an option to create lists of things that you've starred. So you can star something like I treat them as bookmarks. I'm going to star this and put it in the web-related project list. Another thing might be, anyway, so I have several lists to break things up so I can find them later. But GitHub reports them as though they are actual popularity ratings. So this has 15,000 stars. But if that's just people bookmarking it to check out later, then it's not quite the same as having 15,000 stars. So it's a little strange, and we'll touch on this later, the use and interpretation of these sorts of ratings. While other platforms use it for actual rankings, such as the Amazon platform, of course, famously with their 1 through 5 star ratings. Is there a single meaning to the reviewer, but multiple applications and interpretations across platforms? Yeah, of course. What a 3-star product for some? Does it have 3 Michelin stars? Or is it 3 stars from any old person on Amazon, right? Those are very different things. Do I rate something 4 stars, but you rate it 5? What's the difference? Maybe I don't like rating things with 5 stars, and we're going to touch on this again. And of course, we are often enabled to tell a story of some kind, as on Yelp, famously on Yelp, or Amazon, the body of a review, or IMDb, the Internet Movie Database. You may want to recount the plot summary, but also include some of your interpretations, your experience watching a particular movie. Or even on Twitter and Facebook, you can review things in the way that you describe them, and vice versa. So you may say, hey, I saw this movie and it made me very scared and I peed my pants or whatever. So there's a story that you can tell in your reviewing presentation. You know what they say about everyone having an opinion. Why not share it in our modern world where everything can be used as a scoring system for the product or the reviewer, likely both? So I will say, this is sort of a disclaimer, I suppose, but it's context either way. My review stuff. First, I will say that in my Silicon Valley days, so this was about, let's call it 2010-ish. One of the startups I co-founded, Valid Rate, lacked a sexy name. I don't think anybody really liked that name, but I didn't pick that one. But I am good at picking bad names, so say the reviews. But it was aimed at providing reliable reviews. I wrote reviewed reviews, which we called micro reviews, to focus comments on a particular aspect of a product or service, keeping them brief and relevant and easily maintainable. We always intended these to be inputs to a classification scheme. Today it would just be an AI of some flavor, but with brief chunks, which could be updated or removed outright. So the Twitter of reviews, instead of writing 10 paragraphs in a Yelp review about how your mom was visiting and you went to this restaurant and it was a sunny day, all those things are interesting and human, but they're not totally relevant. They set up your context, but may not be applicable to others. So our notion was, if you have a bad experience with the host, or if the food doesn't taste good, so the chef, or maybe there was an incident, or maybe you had an allergic reaction, or any number of things, that would be one particular micro review element. So you would write that, and it would be something that could be agreed with. It could be scored, like this doesn't seem relevant, or this is deadly relevant, or, oh, that person doesn't work there anymore. So this would help to keep those ratings valid. That was the idea. We almost had some seed funding. I think maybe it was closer to 2008. The economy was getting weird. So it was 2008, 9, somewhere in there, maybe 10. But we almost had some seed funding, but then there was some reticence in just the real estate market and investing in general in super weird startups like we were trying to get going here. So we got a bunch of 1-star reviews. Today, I'm an Amazon Vine reviewer, among other things. This means I get to select products I find interesting from a catalog of view items through the Amazon website. Amazon sends me those products if they are available. The really cool stuff goes pretty fast, so sometimes I miss out. But so right away, I'm not getting just a random selection, a loot box of stuff. So it's not a random smattering of things. So I am selecting things that I'm probably interested in, which will, I think, skew the results and certainly skew how the review is made. On the other hand, this is representative of someone who is going to actually spend their own money on a product. So I think the skew is probably appropriate. But so I write the reviews, my reviews of the items that I get. I get the items for free. So these items are marked appropriately so that someone reading my opinion, my review, will know that I received the products for free for the purposes of review. So I'm marked as a Amazon. I won't read it. You can find reviews on there. This product, Amazon Vine reviewer, etc. So it'll be clear that this person did not pay for the product. This is a requirement in general for social media influencers. I think the FTC said something about this a couple years ago. And anyone writing about something that they have been, or creating any content for, that they have been given or paid to review or promote, they're supposed to say it, but it is not always obvious when this is the case. So you're supposed to disclose when you've been compensated or comped, right? Well, this is a big thing in Vegas, but if I eat at a restaurant and I didn't pay for it, if the restaurant covered the cost for the purpose of my review, usually that's frowned upon. But I would disclose that, or I'm supposed to. Same with, anyway, content creators in general. If you are receiving any form of compensation, you're supposed to disclose that in your content. You're supposed to make it clear. And so Amazon does that automatically for Vine reviewers. So that's good. That's fine. In general, I use reviews to make buying decisions, of course, not so much for things like movies. When we all used to go to see movies where box office dollars are a form of review for the bandwagon crowd, thumbs up or thumbs down as likes, etc. So I don't really go to movie theaters anymore, so my need for movie reviews has changed drastically. That's maybe the case in general. Restaurant reviews can be really tricky, and in fact, these were the motivation for Valid Rate way back when. Since I have been in closer contact lately with Amazon's review system as a Vine reviewer, I will say that they have made some interesting adaptations over the years regarding content guidelines and sentiment analysis and whatnot. But reviews can vary so wildly that we can easily run into a problem where 10, like 5 stars on one platform is not the same as 5 stars on another. The Michelin star example is a kind of an extreme one, but still, that's the basic idea. So in keeping with the general notion of the FFS Talks audio program, what works? We often want or even need to know whether the time and money we are about to invest in something will be worthwhile. Should I go to this restaurant or that one? Will it impress? Will it impress my guests, my date, my family, whomever? Will it be a good value? Should I buy this car, this computer, this phone, this air fryer? Will it last? Will it work the way I hope it will? And again, is it a good value? Hopefully other people will be able to tell me that. Other people I've never met. Evolving consumer behaviors and marketplace features have made some reviews moot or maybe very different. You may still go to a movie theater, for example, and you may still look at a box office the box office numbers for an opening weekend. You might think, ooh, I saw the right movie. Yeah, production by a street. But more and more people are watching at home on a streaming service, or maybe renting a movie online through YouTube or Amazon or any number of other providers, or maybe watching something much later for free with ads or by some other means, whatever those might be. So you're no longer really a part of that box office number, of course. You may not be part of the Netflix ratings, or you may not be in the YouTube views for a particular movie. They have a free selection of movies. And so on and so on. So who knows? Who knows? You might find reviews by Jeremy Johns useful, maybe entertaining. He is pretty good at both. He's kind of the everyman, every person. So he seems to really enjoy just watching movies and is fairly animated in the way he describes what he saw. Maybe you like somebody like Chris Stuckman, who is a movie sort of a director, producer himself, and he says that has changed his perception and his desire to be overly critical of some movies. So he's more of a inside baseball / truly loves the movie concept, the production of movies. I think I just saw. By the way, the people I'm naming here happened to be in the YouTube recommended panel. So I picked the 3 that were already there. I didn't go searching. There are more. I watched a quick review of his, and he said, "Now I'll go see any movie, unfunded, minimally funded, huge production, animated, whatever." So he just went through how much he just loves movies, and he likes talking about them. So he's a little bit more of a movie purist, right? I'm going to talk about the movie, the science of movies, the culture of movies, the process of movies. Jeremy Johns, I just love movies. I like going to see movies. I'm not trying to mock him. I'm just saying they're two different types of characters. And then another one that was presented, Deep Focus Lens. I don't know the person's name. It's a woman. The other two are men, or they seem to be. I'm not commenting on how they identify, but the Deep Focus Lens seems to maybe mix in a little bit of ideology. So you're going to see a viewpoint with some ideology mixed in. It's no longer a serious financial risk, though, to see a movie in general. If watching at home, it can be a risk if you are only considering spending hundreds of dollars, which you can, to take the family out for a movie, or if even yourself. But there are so many other options. Really, you're not limited to going and seeing a movie in a theater. The people that tend to review movies want to get in there, early, so they'll go see it on opening night. Sometimes they discuss the cinema experience. So it really does come down to time and money. Do I want to spend either or both? And will I get something in return, like satisfaction with a meal or a movie, utility from a lawnmower or a mobile phone, maybe enjoyment and happiness from that movie or book or museum or golf course or any number of other things? We want to know what others think based on their firsthand experiences. We could ask friends in person and get an answer we could assign value to. Like, I know my friends like the same movies I do. So if they saw a movie and I did not, what did you think? Should I go see it? And they will tell me what they think. But more often we ask people we have never met at scale. So I might get 10,000 people telling me what they think about a movie, and I'll get an answer, but I don't know if it's the same answer that my closer colleagues whom I know would give me, or maybe they would agree. Who knows? It probably depends. So many things do. So what doesn't work, or what doesn't necessarily work? And there's probably more. I could list more things, but I like to keep it to three. The rule of three. So opaque and unstructured reviews are tied for first place here. What are these? Well, why did I give 5 stars to one thing and 4 stars to another? Similar thing. If there is room to provide some anecdotal prose, maybe there's some description of the reasoning. I try to do this actually in my Vine reviews. I'll say I'm providing a 4-star review for a 5-star product because of something, right? The documentation's horrible, or the packaging is unsafe for shipping. If you purchase something that's glass and it could break, or that, that's getting a little pedantic. But sometimes it's just, hey, it's a good product, but it's not a great product. So 4 stars. I'm removing a star to indicate that to me they could have done better, right? That's me. Other people cap their reviews at 4 stars if there's a 5-star system, and reserve the full 5 for exceptional or unique experiences that they rarely, if ever, come across. But someone else might only give 5-star reviews, considering anything else not worth reviewing. If I give 4 stars to a restaurant, is it awesome? Did I remove a star for food or service? Was it more expensive than I wanted it to be, but actually in line with similar offerings? In other words, should it have really received 5 stars, but I'm knocking off a star because it was too expensive for me? But that doesn't affect you, or it might affect someone else, so that they give it 3 stars. We often have no idea what criteria our unknown advisors are using. And the unstructured part is that, it's opaque and unstructured. These are, you could argue they're the same sort of the two sides of the same coin. Because I'm not explicitly disclosing where my reasoning is. Why did I not give it 5 stars? Why did I give it 1 star? I could just give it 1 star and say, I didn't like this place. That's a valid review on some platforms. It's not helpful, but it's valid. Unstructured would be, unstructured also comes into play because I might give 5 stars to a movie, but 4 stars to a restaurant, but I'm equally pleased with both. I just have my own reasons. And because they're unstructured, I don't have to worry about justifying those to anyone. So they're opaque, but also unstructured. There is no, it's kind of like grades at school. Why'd you get the A plus? Oh, because the teacher liked me. Reviews are becoming more and more performative. That's kind of a problem, I think. Reviewers have created and people that really do reviews for a living, basically, reviewers have created entire media channels and brands around comparisons and rankings, such as tasting and ranking every Girl Scout cookie or fast food burgers or an entire spectrum of mobile phones, cars, everything. Some people do all of this. Some people specialize on consumer electronics. Some people specialize on food. When reviews form the basis of a business model and an audience must be attracted, kept, and satisfied, reviews need to pop. It works great, does not cut it. So catering to an audience often will, let me fix that. Often while attempting to maintain credibility with that audience, it's a fine line. You can, every once in a while, some reviewer will cross that line and they will get clapped back. You're a shill. Why did you change? Why did you come across so positive? Hey, how come you were so negative on this one and so positive on that one? And the list goes on. Add to the mix the notion that some content creators will review or present products, services, venues, especially here in the Vegas area, without necessarily being clear that they're compensated in some way. Comped rooms, free food, access to some new attraction or venue before it's really open to the public, perhaps. Maybe cash in hand. Maybe they're paid. I will say the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority does pay some content creators to do their work, to promote tourism and visitors coming to Vegas and checking out all the cool stuff. More power to them. But it is not always as obvious as it is supposed to be. Really disclosing these things should be more transparent, and it's supposed to be. Legally, it's supposed to be. Sometimes a review is published with an agenda. This is probably the worst. It may be attached to compensation. Like, well, if you didn't pay me, I'm not going to write you a good review. There are stories about this in the restaurant review business. The menu has one of the characters in the group of final customers who writes restaurant reviews and has injured people. That's a sort of an agenda, I suppose. Have you ever heard of review bombing? And I did have a link to a Wikipedia page with some incidents, some I guess well-known or better known. This was also a motivator for the founding of ValidRate and this was this was not funny, but it is sort of one of those things that makes you think. Reviewers were leaving a 1-star review and negative comment reviews for a restaurant that had not even finished their tenant improvements. They had not opened their doors. They had not had one customer walk through a door, sit down, eat. None of that had happened. Clearly, these reviews were not based on customer experience. They were just mad. They just felt like writing, seeing their words published and being mean. Not sure. An angry competitor could do something like this. Somebody's ex and all of their friends, or any of who knows how many other reasons could drive such a concerted and ultimately bogus effort to diminish the value of reviews for a particular product, service, retail establishment, maybe even an individual person. Even worse, it is sometimes difficult to prove that this is the case, so that removing or otherwise having these bogus reviews taken down can be a chore that may not be accomplished in a reasonable time. You can find some reviews for some places or things or people that are years old, and you think, this is really mean, this is really angry, or there's a ton of 1-star reviews and angry comments and so on, and they just persist because the platform, I think Yelp does this, they have a policy, hey, we're not going to review and possibly remove reviews based on a business owner's complaints and so on. So the platform policies and social pressures and so on are a potent mix of headache. I've worked with food truck owners, for example. I've heard nothing but frustrations about how reviewers are really unfair. With an agenda, somebody that has a really good experience might give a really good review, but then somebody who's really angry will leave a very bad review. And I would always tell people, if you're having a bad experience, the owner is right here. You're literally standing sheet metal between you and the business owner, probably. Not always the case, but sometimes. just walk back up and say, hey, can we fix it? Unlike in a restaurant, which may be bustling and crazy, just say, hey, this doesn't taste right. They'll probably want to fix it, and you may end up having a really good experience. So the agenda sometimes is done to get some attention, or to be to get some attention. Sometimes that is the agenda. Speaking of social pressures, we can add to the mix the fact that reviews can be tainted by other reviews. It may be that I sort of liked that restaurant or that blender or whatever, but other people really, really liked it. My 4-star review is something of an outlier. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I should give it 5 stars. Everybody else did. So maybe, yeah, I'll give it 5 stars. Maybe I did something wrong. Or maybe everybody gave it 1 star. Why am I considering 4 stars? Maybe I really missed something, or maybe I actually got it right. What do the stars mean here? And by the way, this is something that we talked about a lot when I worked at Salon, when we were doing the notion of open salon, which did eventually roll out and then died. You can know an editorial author, a journalist, somewhat. You'll kind of know their politics, their positions, their expertise, and so on. But the casual person who wants to chime in on something, you don't necessarily know. If you're looking for camera reviews, some people might say, I love this camera, 5 stars. Other people might say, this camera is really not that great, 2 stars. But you don't really know much. That person that gave it 5 stars might just want a camera to have in their pocket to take pictures when their phone doesn't work, or whatever, right? The 2-star review may be coming from a professional photographer or a prosumer photographer who needs a point and shoot pocket camera to sort of like capture background scenery, not for production necessarily, but like to capture a scene for layout or for basic geography, right? What's the setting? So for whatever reason, so the viewpoints, the basis of judgment are just very different. So if I see a bunch of people giving 5-star reviews on Imaging Resource or some other digital camera enthusiast / prosumer / professional hardware review sites, and I'm like, I didn't really like this camera, but these people know what they're doing and I don't. So how is that going to impact what I have to say? It probably should. What about in places where I'm the pro and they are not, et cetera, et cetera. So it can get a little complicated if you look at other reviews when you're considering your own. And again, what do the stars mean? Opaque and unstructured. Whoops. We may be looking at buying or use decision, consulting reviews. We see that the thing that we were looking at spending our time or money on gets great reviews, but do we know why? Or maybe it gets awful reviews. Do we know why? There are items on Amazon that have thousands, even tens of thousands of reviews. Are we reading the details, or is that average star rating credible enough? If something has 13,000 reviews and it's 4.8 stars, probably pretty good. Are we looking at the number 3 selling vehicle, the 5th best selling mobile phone, the least popular blender? We're probably going with the one that seems to be the best, the most popular. Are we going to be encouraged with ours matching the popular decision? Like, should I buy the number 1 or the number 5? Are we going to be swayed by the popular decision? I was going to buy number 5 because I know that brand is really good and I've had a good experience, but everybody's looking at the number 1 item there and maybe I should change. Why is the thing popular anyway? Price, performance, color, celebrity endorsement? Who knows? Do people always share that information? Opaque and unstructured. I would say these are leaning towards bandwagon effect, pressuring some of our decisions about reviews and purchases. And confirmation bias can come into play if we are looking to match our decision with the popular decision. Reviews are often submitted without qualification, without any sort of scientific or even ethical rigor. They may have an agenda, which we discussed. They may be purely emotional. How we interpret these unknowns found in that star rating and sometimes in the anecdotes that accompany them is left to us and how we want to judge ourselves in that context. Are we making a choice to fit in? Are we making a selection? Are we selecting the review outlet that aligns with our views or performance to feel better about a choice? And so on, right? So what does our selection and use of reviews say about ourselves? I usually mix it up a little bit. Sometimes I look at something that I'm interested in purchasing. Maybe it's a price consideration, or maybe it's the utility. Like, I need a thing. That one looks like a reasonable value. The reviews look decent. There's a lot of 5-star reviews on Amazon or whatever, wherever I'm looking, usually Amazon. So, okay, maybe I've made a good choice. So there's a vicious circle, or maybe a virtuous circle of initial consideration, reviewing the reviews, weighing them against your initial consideration, possibly changing your mind, making a purchase, or reassessing. I'm sure we all go through some variation of that process, and it can vary. And how do we assign not only the credibility and value of the reviews and the number of reviews and the spread, the distribution of different ratings, the granularity versus non-granularity, and then how does that impact our decision, and vice versa? Like, how did our initial decision impact how far we're willing to go to review the reviews, and what will people think of what we consider and how? It gets so complicated. So can we make this better? And I will argue that it actually is getting better, different, maybe getting better in some ways, a little less better in others. Reviews as votes cast with our money, perhaps, often, could be made more valuable for making a decision if there is less opacity. So we should be able to see why people are making decisions that involve spending money. Movie box office numbers are an almost trivial case at this point, and again, they're kind of fading in actual decision making. It may make the producers happy. The executive producer, the people that paid the money to make a movie, want to see those box office numbers. But are people making viewing decisions based on box office numbers? I don't know. How about stock market moves, though? Cryptocurrency values, which change on who knows what, and can change and can often drive bandwagon purchases, financial bandwagon, perhaps, purchases or participation in general. Amazon, so it could be sales, right? Amazon makes a reasonable effort to show when reviews are made by actual or verified purchasers, or when people like me are providing a compensated review, but they appear to have done away with some of the granular star ratings, preferring sentiment analysis of any text in the body of the review. So in other words, when you submitted your overall star review, you used to be able to say value for the money, 1 to 5 stars, product quality, whatever it was. There were 3 to 5, I think, additional, more granular star ratings you could offer, and those appear to have gone away with some sort of real-time sentiment analysis. So as you're typing in a review, you might see little check marks next to some terms below the text entry box. This is in the desktop browser interface. I don't know if it's similar in the web version. I haven't used it. But as you're typing a review, you might see value with a checkbox next to it, because you've said, which I usually do. I'll say, this is a great value or a good value. So they'll start checking off things like quality and value and things like this. So it's trying to give you feedback that it located this sentiment that you're expressing in your plain human text review. Without granular review, some sort of sentiment analysis becomes much more important. But then any particular review may not address the issues or questions that cry out to be answered. I wonder if some sort of AI interview might enter the fray at some point, so that rather than telling you when you have hit the marks, as Amazon does currently, in which they attempt to summarize on their product page. So you'll often see, if a lot of people mention value, then that'll be a highlighted thing. They'll do an AI generated summary, like, people talk about the great value, right? But these are sort of catch as catch can, I think. You might eventually get some follow-up as you're composing a more detailed review, as in, before you submit this, what did you think of the value? Is it a valuable price? Did you get value for the money you spent on this? One essential component of this process may be establishing the why. Simon Sinek. The why can change. Well, a lot can change, of course. But if you did not like the food at a restaurant and they hire a new chef, or they change ownership completely, the basis of your review may have become invalid. It's the same restaurant, same name, same place, different people. Is it the same? It's the ship of Theseus, right? So the why has changed, and that should be reflected. If a restaurant was purchased and changed ownership and changed, maybe it kept the menu and the theme, but it changed the quality or the preparations, the recipes. So the menu may have changed a little bit. but you may find that it's a radically different and maybe even far better place. So should your review from 5 years ago be sticking around and affecting the average? Probably not. A bad customer experience may change when the employee culprits, when the person that made your bad experience is dismissed. Version 2 or 3 of a product might make moot your version 1 review, and so on. Reviews can age, they often do, and sometimes not well. And we might consider that the granularity on the composition side, as you're writing, might go well with more population feedback, rating your review as valid, like a valid rate, or maybe no longer valid or outright invalid, to elevate the relevant and correct reviews, and to also indicate when those reviews have changed. The person is gone, the recipes are better, the quality of the product has improved, the manufacturing is different and therefore better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in fact, I think this was the secret sauce of valid rate. And one of the reasons I think we could actually probably still do it if we were really to revisit. When someone submits a review, like, I thought this place was horrible, right? We mentioned the review bombing. So if a bunch of people say this place was horrible, those reviews, maybe a population of people who know the place, maybe it's a restaurant review, right? People who know the restaurant can say, this is not a valid representation of the place that we know. So these are review bombs, or these are, you could somehow provide a format, a structure, a protocol to rank these submissions. And if we made them micro reviews and more granular, then you would say, this person no longer works here. This is no longer valid, or this person never worked there, or this person is not as they're being represented here. Or one of the things that is subtle, but is it's difficult to really capture and grade, is someone having a bad day, or you caught a product that had a supply chain problem. If you get food poisoning at a restaurant because the lettuce had an E. coli contamination issue that people found out about, and fixed, but you were in the window of time when they didn't find out about it yet, is that the restaurant's fault? Is that the supply chain? Are you rating this the right place? I had a bad experience. They made it right. Where does that fit into the overall review and the review history of a particular restaurant? Or, you can come up with similarities till the sun sets, and the sunset might not even be that good. So the take home is, I think there's plenty of improvement here, and this is obviously something that could be discussed and debated. I think star ratings, if they're opaque, are kind of silly. They're a vibe, to use the term of the day. I got 5-star vibes. Well, I only got 4-star vibes, but you may actually agree completely on what you both think of a product. You just have a different rating system, which makes it no rating system. So I think it's an area that really deserves a lot more scrutiny and a lot more disclosure, a lot more consideration. And I'm sure eventually we'll be seeing more and more AI generated reviews. Those will be problematic. There needs to be a lot more transparency on compensation or otherwise influenced influencers. And we should know over time when things have changed. Like I said, the transparency and the why. The why changes, the historical or aging effects of reviews, when the version, the manufacturing location, the materials, the menu, the employees. The ship of Theseus does apply. If it's not the same product, should your review stay up? I vote no. I will give that 1 star. So that's the notion. That's my take. If you'd like to talk about this or any of the various topics that have come up in the previous, what are we on? 84. So the previous 84, this one and the previous 83. So 84 episodes worth of topics and solo presentations. If you have an argument to make, a discussion to have, let's do it. On that note, I will leave it here. Thank you for tuning in and sticking with it till the end here. And be sure and give this a great rating wherever you're consuming this audio program. Thanks, and we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.